All right, guys, welcome to the SLC Dunk post-game show. This is your host, Hanson James. The Jazz lose a tough one in Oklahoma City. I was a little worried about this game because it's another back end of a back-to-back. Typically, you don't have the advantage in those, and when you're on the road as well, it's rough. And the Jazz kind of got caught at the end of the game, just really tired, especially Joe Ingles. Holy smokes. But it just kind of caught up to the Jazz, and they lost the game. Before we get into the Jazz a little bit, I want to talk about the Thunder and some things that I think are interesting about them. The Oklahoma City Thunder are an interesting team, honestly fascinating with adding Carmelo Anthony and Paul George along with Russell Westbrook. They're star-laden now, so a very interesting team to watch and kind of see how it gels. I think one of the interesting things about the Oklahoma City Thunder is how good they are on defense. And when you watch them play, you see why, because they're very long. They play hard. They guard their positions really well, and they're tough. I mean, you've got, you've got Paul George, great defender. You've got Robinson, just great long defenders. And then on the inside, you've got Steven Adams, who is just a strong rim protector who plays well and moves in space. It's just tough. So it's tough to score. And so the Jazz come out into this game and just were lights out to start the game. They were hitting shots. They were just impressive. And Donovan Mitchell, again, just electric for this game and just for the rest of the season, guys. 20-plus points per game is just going to be penciled in. That's what makes a star in this league, and it's going to happen. But anyways, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they play great defense. They have a lot of length. Where they seem to struggle sometimes is just offensively. It just, they've got Carmelo, they've got Paul George, who are great players. Carmelo's kind of in the twilight of his career a little bit, but I still think that he can play really well as a role player on a team like this. I actually think that he can kind of fit a role a lot like Joe Johnson did for the Utah Jazz and does for the Utah Jazz when he comes back, kind of this veteran player that can score for you, especially against second units, and can be kind of a stretch four that hits long-range threes. And I think kind of what Joe Johnson has done for Utah, I don't see why Carmelo Anthony couldn't do that for the Thunder. And we kind of saw at the end of this game, Carmelo Anthony made a bucket. He made that little mid-range turnaround jump shot, and that was kind of the deciding factor. If he doesn't make that, then maybe the Jazz go and get a bucket and keep it close, and who knows what happens. But Carmelo is going to show his worth in his ability to get a bucket when it's tough, when it's a half-court game, and he can score. Paul George is interesting because it kind of feels like with Russell it's the hardest name to say, by the way, really quickly over and over. Russell Westbrook. He's kind of hard to play off of in a lot of ways, in that he runs the show, and in some ways it seems like watching them, it kind of relegates Paul George to a jump shooter, and he did get some nice buckets, and he's really, really good, and big reason why the Jazz lost this game. He scored over 20 points this game. He played great defense against the Jazz's length. He got some steals. Just really nice player for them. It's just going to be interesting to see if the Thunder can gel more, because their defense right now is great. It's really good, and it made it tough for the Jazz to really do anything inside. Rudy was a non-factor, but just the Thunder are going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how much better they can be. They're I don't know, if they can figure it out, they have a chance to be really good. But they've struggled all year. And it's going to be just hard for those two players, Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, to find big-time roles, because Russell Westbrook is the guy. Johnny Proctor, no excuses. We were up by a lot. If Neto had been available, we'd have won. Rubio is simply not good for our team. And also Johnny Proctor, Adams dominated the paint. Without Adams' offense, OKC loses this game. Adams was big-time. Adams was big-time this game. And I'm going to talk about the Jazz now a little bit. So if you're OKC, sorry. But the Jazz, Rudy Gobert is just not quite there yet. His strength is obviously less than when he got the injury. And playing against Steven Adams when your strength is low is going to be rough going, because Steven Adams is just a bulldozer, and he's long, and he finishes at the rim, and he rebounds. And so that's a tough ask for Rudy and Favors. First off, Rudy's he's coming off of an injury to his legs, which is what he needs to be able to kind of compete with Adams. Adams is tough to deal with when you're fully healthy, and so when you're coming off of injury and a back end of a back-to-back, and you traveled last night, that's just rough. I mean, honestly, this Jazz team ran out of gas this fourth quarter. Like, the biggest sign of it to me was when Joe Ingles had that corner three and just hit the front of the rim. I mean, that's just tired. And then his defense as well was just like they were out of gas. We needed a few threes to go down and a few shots for the other team to not go down, and that's what would have been the answer. But kudos to the Thunder, who made shots and played great defense and won the game. They're a good team. And they've been struggling this year, but maybe this is a game that helps them figure it out. Hopefully not, because we play the Thunder 2 more times this month. I think the Jazz will just compete with them. The Jazz beat the Thunder before. This one was down to the wire win for the Thunder at home, so we'll see what happens next game. Donovan Mitchell, what can we say other than that he is just a star? He's fun every night. When he's not on the floor, you notice the difference. When he's on the floor, he just makes shots. He is just a special talent, and every city he travels to, he comes away making fans. One of my favorite parts of the game was after, when Paul George was talking to Donovan. He made a point to you could just tell, you couldn't really read his lips. Man, I can't talk tonight. You could tell he just couldn't really you couldn't read his lips, but you could tell he was just giving him props for how good he is and how impressed they are with his play. Donovan is just a stud, and he's going to be a problem for a lot of teams for years to come. I really just think this was a loss for the Jazz, where it was a back end of the back-to-back. They traveled. They had a big win the night before. You would have hoped that they would have had a little bit more rest, and they did actually with the blowout, but wasn't to be. Really tough game for Ricky Rubio. Of all the starters on the team, he's the only one with a negative plus-minus. There's not a lot to say with Ricky Rubio other than sometimes when his shot's not going down, and he had a few just bad turnovers. Real big-time turnovers, and in close games like this, you can't afford turnovers like that, especially ones that lead to easy buckets in transition the other way. I mean, they're just killer, and that's rough. I mean, Rubio has played better the last 4 or 5 games, and tonight might just be, tiredness, and a few lazy passes come from just being tired. But man, there was a few plays where if we just could get those back, and he, it was tough because he really did not impact Westbrook. And I know Russell Westbrook is an MVP, but man, Rubio just did not impact him, did not impact the ball. Westbrook had like 5 or 6 shots where he has that little pull-up mid-range where he makes that with regularity. Man, it was tough, and Johnny Proctor, Neto is a better fit for this team than Rubio. Maybe the only thing about Neto is he's undersized, and Rubio can guard better. Tonight was not the case, but typically Rubio is better defender, gets steals, he starts transition, and lately he's been hitting his shot with somewhat regularity. But man, tonight Westbrook just had his way when Rubio was guarding him. Mitchell actually guarded him really well. Donovan Mitchell, I'm not going to say a bad thing about Donovan Mitchell. You guys, you can go elsewhere to talk about Donovan Mitchell and, however, but here, this is the Donovan Mitchell show for sure. Not a lot to be worried about with the Jazz, just kind of a tough loss. A lot of factors weighing in, back into back-to-back. Rudy's injured and tired and getting healthy again. Tough loss for the Jazz. And OKC, we'll see how well they can turn around, if they can become a lot better, or if they're, interestingly enough, just a defensive-minded team with 3 kind of offensive players known for their offense. So anyways, guys, remember to like and subscribe, to follow on Facebook, share it with your friends, share it on social media, share it on Reddit, share it everywhere. Go to slcdunk.com, read all the articles, become a member of SB Nation, and comment on everything. Talk to you later.